That is so cool. NPU. This is starting to worry me a little bit how flimsy it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and a massive thank you to everybody that has supported this channel so far, whether you've been liking, commenting, subscribing, or sharing these videos, or simply watching them. Thank you, because we recently reached 1,000 subscribers, which is crazy to me. So I thought for this video, we would take a look at the most recommended sets so far on the channel. And if you've been around, you might know what that set is. And I'm of course talking about Cole's Titan Dragon Mech. If you grew up in the early 2000s, you would also look at this set with a little bit of skepticism because Exoforce didn't get anywhere close to a mech this sizable. It is very bulky and very big. So I have a little bit of concerns if this is gonna hold its own weight and how it's gonna hold its poses. So in terms of playability, I am a little worried, but after building the Source Dragon Emotion and the Climber bot, I feel like the Ninjago team might actually know what they're up to, and I think this set is gonna be great. I picked this set up for $73 instead of the usual $99 retail point. So if you can find this on sale, it is definitely a steal. Comes in at 1,055 pieces and a singular minifig, which is a little bit weird because when I looked up the other Titan mechs, such as Lloyd and Jace, they had 6 minifigs. And Zane's Titan mech came with 4, and then the Climber bot, which isn't a Titan mech, but it still came with 4 minifigs. So this is the only one that I've seen that comes with 1 singular minifig. Not sure if that's a good deal or a bad deal, but for 73 bucks, 1,055 pieces, pretty good deal. With that said, let's take a look at the box design. As to be expected, the front is decent and the Titan mech looks massive and very bulky, and it reminds me a little bit of the Exo Toa from Bionicle in 2002, a set that I still wish that I had gotten. In the top right corner, we have Lloyd and the Source Dragon Emotion, and in the bottom right, we got Cole in his mech suit with pauldrons that look a little bit like croissants. And up top, we got Cole carrying the sword, which just puts into scale how massive that Ornithopter piece really is. And on the side, we have Cole and some Dragon's Rising symbols. Taking a look at the back, it is as disappointing as ever. We get a diagram letting us know that it is a 17.5 inch tall mech, which is very big. But the main art here is just leaving a lot to be desired. The location in the background is very uninteresting and again, doesn't hint at any storyline. And it's starting to make me wonder why the ninjas need these massive battle mechs if they're not really up against anyone. The only other mech that we got from the villains last year was the small Wolf Mask Warrior set, which stands no chance against the blade that is taller than the actual mech itself. If anyone knows the answer as to why these ninjas need massive mechs when they don't really fight anyone in massive mechs, please let me know. This is just really uninspiring to me, and if I could give the box design a grade, I would give all of these pretty much a D immediately. It doesn't inspire any play, and if anything, it makes these sets look more like display pieces than actual toys for kids. The saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover, and I'm starting to wonder if that's the motto that LEGO goes by, because these covers are not that interesting, and growing up in the early 2000s with Vikings, Exoforce, and Bionicle, they were masters at situating the kind of story that you were going to be playing out, and there is no story here, and there is no story here, and there was no story at all with the Source Dragon Emotion either. And I'm starting to wonder if they really think that we should judge only the sets and not their covers, because the covers are just so uninspiring. But let's hope that the cover remains uninspiring, but that the insides, just like a book, is where the real magic happens. So let's crack this bad boy open. Just like the Source Dragon Emotion, this is one of those sliding boxes so you don't have to punch any holes. Ha! What a surprise. This set came out in 2024 around the same time as the Source Dragon Emotion, which used paper bags, and now we're back to plastic ones. 11 bags, 4 instruction books, a small sticker sheet, the very flimsy Ornithopter piece that is already a little bit bent, unfortunately. And then we get a separate bag with 6 of these sword pieces that are a lot sturdier. And then we get a small sticker sheet. Hopefully it's not going to be too hard to apply these. I personally do not understand why we need 4 instructions for a mech. It feels like something that you would want to build on your own and not necessarily need help to build. And I just don't understand what Lego was thinking when they made 4 of these instead of just one thick book with all the instructions, because how fun would it be to build something together where you just build a shoulder or a thigh or a foot? To me, this doesn't make that much sense to split up. This is something you want the whole entire booklet in one. So Lego, I personally don't fully understand what you're doing, but 11 bags of fun. Let's judge the actual outcome of this set. Let's judge the mech and not their weird process of how they want to get there. Bag number 1. This is a really cool minifig. I really like the orange versus white, and it's not a color combination that I've seen that much since Mars Mission, so it's pretty cool to see it turn up here. It is undeniable that the shoulder pauldrons look a little bit like croissants, especially in orange, and I love translucent parts, so the swords look great in this minifig. I like it. The first part is building the cockpit or torso, so let's get on with that. I've wanted to explore more Star Wars sets, especially considering that the first thing that I reviewed on this channel was the Mos Eisley Canteen and then the Droideka. So initially my interest was going to be Star Wars on this channel, but I'm thinking I want to kind of explore all the sets that I like. And currently Ninjago just offers a little bit more than Star Wars in terms of sets that I like. And I saw that they released the ARC 170 again, and I really think that set is somewhat of a miss. It's gotten smaller with the years. $70 for, what was it, 497 pieces or so, which isn't a great deal. And I know you can't always do price per piece ratios, but when you see a set like this for $73, which is only like $4 more or $3 more than the ARC 170, I had to go with this set. I mean, this is such a steal. This is a great set, I think, I assume, and I hope. I want it to be good. I'm a little bit still skeptic about how it's gonna hold its own weight, but when you just see a deal like that, you can't pass it down. One thing that I quite miss from my childhood is the unique pieces that would show up in sets like Bionicle. They would have every single wave, there would be new pieces, and a large amount, especially with the Baraki line, which I thought was really cool. These underwater creatures that mimicked real life creatures. I thought was really cool, and a lot of themes would get kind of their own pieces that made them look unique. Like, you knew what theme it was based on the pieces. Mars Mission had their own pieces too. I'm not sure how many unique pieces were used in Exoforce, but they would get recolors that were exclusive to Exoforce. And it just feels a little bit of a shame that when you look at a theme like Ninjago, they get some unique pieces, but it's maybe like 4 or 5 per wave, which I think is a shame. But back in the day, Lego didn't have every piece, I think, cataloged until like the 2010s. So they were just going crazy, just pushing out a ton of pieces, not really knowing what they had in their inventory and what the budget was. So that's kind of, from what I've heard, is why you get so many pieces in the early 2000s. It was a different time. I think Lego nowadays doesn't have to try as hard as they did in the early 2000s because, well, in the beginning of the 2000s, they were facing bankruptcy because they were paying a lot to the Star Wars license, and their general originals just hadn't hit off yet. They hadn't created something that was compelling enough for people to really invest in the brand long term. And that's when they came up with Bionicle, which helped save them out of bankruptcy. And I really think that even though Lego's doing better than they ever have at the moment, it might not, in my humble and personal opinion, be at its peak anymore because they don't need to try the same way that they used to. And I think Lego has somewhat fallen off when it comes to their original themes, considering at the moment we only really have Ninjago, I think, as a typical boyish theme. When I was growing up, you had so many original boyish themes that of course anyone could get into, but I think they knew who they were targeting quite well back then. And I think it's somewhat of a shame when you look at something like Dreams as the alternative to Ninjago. I just don't think it's as well curated as it was in the early 2000s, where you would have, again, Power Miners, which was a little bit goofy, Exoforce, Mars Mission, Aqua Raiders, Atlantis, Bionicle, Knight's Kingdom. Yeah, so there was a lot of good themes back in the day, and I just feel like they've gotten a little bit too comfortable with their icon sets and stuff like that, which are cool, of course, but Lego at the end of the day is a toy brand, and I just feel like they're not making a lot of great toys anymore. And so many of them are so expensive. Something that I thought was great growing up was that there was a great variety of different priced sets. And of course today we also have a lot of different prices, but back then they were way more affordable. You could pick up a Bionicle for $9 and every wave would be 6 Matorans, which were the smaller sets that would run for I think like $3 or $4. And that way you could really collect Lego, and I feel like nowadays it's a bit hard to collect it. You gotta know what sets you're gonna be picking up because you can't really pick all of them up unless you are very well off, which I think is a little bit of a shame because I would get all the Bionicle sets because they weren't that expensive, and it was the same with Exoforce. A lot of the sets were quite reasonably priced to begin with, running for about $15 per set, and that would be a big one. And I think the smaller ones maybe ran for like $10 maybe. Not 100% sure about that, but generally everything felt a bit more affordable and collectible. With Ninjago, it's not like they release a lot of same size sets. I know that they released some mechs last year, which was great, but I personally didn't feel that a lot of them hit. I thought they were kind of cool, but like the posability on Cole's, what is it, Earth Mech, is more limited than an Exoforce set from 20 years ago. Oh, oh, that's weird. So the instructions show that these two are supposed to align like this. And at first I thought, well, there's no connection point here. But again, snot techniques, it's gonna get locked in on the sides here. Snot techniques being studs not on top. That looks cool. I'm not sure if we're looking at the back or the front yet. I'm assuming this is the back. I really don't know. It looks cool, and we're done with bag number 1. So let's get on to bag number 2. Growing up, I had a really fun time with my neighbor. He was a little bit older than me and my brother. He had the Lego UFO sets from '97. Those sets have some magnificent printing. It is a bit strange to me that Lego doesn't seem to make as many villain sets as they used to. When I was growing up, back then you would have so many fantastic villain sets, especially in Bionicle. I mean, half the waves were just villain sets, and a lot of the times the Titan sets were also like villain based. And it's weird to me because I feel like the heroes aren't as interesting if they don't have interesting villains, and Bionicle would definitely flesh out that lore. And with Exoforce, you also got pretty good villain sets. And even in Vikings, you would kind of always get a dragon or serpent or something for the Vikings to fight. And it just leaves me a little bit confused why with Ninjago, you end up with one singular wolf mask warrior mech in 2024. And then you get something like the Titan Mech and the Climber Bot and all the other smaller mechs, and it's like you guys are fighting one singular wolf mask warrior. I know that the lore and the show might explain other enemies that they are fighting, but if you're just looking at the sets, like what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to battle with? Like there's no chance for these wolf mask warriors against these massive mechs and other vehicles. There's no chance. And it just leaves the play experience of the theme a little bit boring, or like it's not tapping into its full potential, I don't think. And from what I've heard is that Lego doesn't make that much on the villain sets, which I think is crazy. I don't know when that happened, if that's always been the case. It can't have been, especially not with Bionicle, considering that they were selling those villain sets every single year, 6 of them at minimum. Even the Source Dragon Emotion is not some sort of corrupted dragon. It's just a nice little dragon goddess. And then this clicks into here, and that is our torso. That is so cool. Bag number 3 tells us specifically to listen for the click. Ah, okay, cool. It's so beefy already, so chunky. Listen for the click. So cool. Then we have these kind of skirt pieces. that go on the sides, which, yeah, you can't convince me that a skirt on a mech isn't cool, even if it's like super masculine and broody with these kind of colors. A skirt is pretty cool. And then we get another little skirt piece thing in the front to cover. Oh, wow. Yeah, skirts on mechs are cool. Skirts on mechs are really cool. Bag number 4, instruction book 2. Honestly, it's quite refreshing to go back to plastic bags. I know that the paper ones save the environment and all that, but I don't know, when I get a Lego set and I can see what's inside of the bags, I get excited, and it's way easier to know if all the pieces are out of the bag, because with the paper ones, they get stuck and it's easy to throw them out without seeing if they're fully empty. And even if you have checked if they're empty, they might still be in there. So quite a nice return to form when it comes to plastic bags. This is strange to me. I have never seen something like this before. Ugh, they look a little weird too, like little mushrooms. Then again, if you look at the Baraki line from Bionicle and look at the squid launchers, I would be pretty sure most of you would look at that too and be like, that's not Lego. So far I am impressed, but we have a long way to go to see if this set is gonna hold its own weight. Okay, we've caught up to speed. Now we have both of them. I didn't pay attention to the fact that it said that I should be building these at the same time. Kind of like the Source Dragon Emotion, how that had rubber pieces underneath to hold itself. Ooh, that is NPU extreme. Let me show you once again. So you slide this piece in the front, and then this one on top, and that creates almost a perfect curve. Wow. NPU. So this doesn't look like a high-heeled boot anymore. At some point I must have gone wrong. Yeah, not a high-heeled boot. Both feet are done, and the rubber pieces underneath are very sturdy. Definitely don't feel like Lego, but this is what sets these new sets apart from the old ones, that they've thought about everything this time. Bag number 5. This time I will make sure to do both parts at the same time. Those of you who recommended this set said that it was the best Titan that they had made. And at first I was a bit skeptical about that because I really liked the Climber Mech, but of course it did lack some posability in the elbows and the knees. Hopefully this set is going to showcase that it knows what it's doing in that realm. I'm super excited to see if it's going to be able to hold its poses. And thank you everyone who did suggest the set. I would gladly get some more recommendations, because after this set, I actually don't think I have any sets that I want to review. I have run out of sets that I like. I am very much looking forward to the summer wave of Ninjago and Star Wars to see what both of those themes are up to. But for now, I haven't seen anything that I'm like, yeah, I want that in my collection. Oh wow, we're still building the foot? I don't know if I like that. Super excited to see how this looks in the end. I feel like this is something that is big enough to maybe take on the Source Dragon Emotion. Again, in terms of lore, that probably makes no sense at all. But in terms of size and a battle, I definitely think that this mech might be big enough to take it on. And now we go back to these, but in black, which is refreshing. I haven't seen these in black since I was a kid, I think. They went to red quite early on. But then again, what is the point? Because we're working with a black piece, like black on black here. So why did we ever need red? It never looks good in red. Why are we doing it then? Sometimes Lego, you're up to some weird stuff that I don't know how to explain. Like, there is 2 ways apparently to do this, so why are we doing it in the flashiest way possible in most sets? On the Climber Mech, we were definitely using red, which maybe made more sense for the color scheme, but now you've proven that we can do it with the black ones, which often looks better. So can you explain that with the Bionicle Baraki sets that had red and blue pins all over the place, kind of ruining its color scheme? Can you explain that to me? This whole time we could have done it with black ones, but you chose red. Listen for the click. When I see these, I think of the Borox because you would attach the rubber band to those pieces. And generally that is my entire experience with these. Whenever these show up, you put a rubber band around it. So now that you have mixel joints that connect to this, I guess it gives them a completely new purpose. But when I see these, I thought rubber bands, but I don't think that's where we're going. But now we're on to bag number 6. This is huge. This piece alone just gives it a little bit of insight of the scale of this thing, how big it's gonna become. Oh, how the nostalgia hits with these Bionicle pieces. I don't even think I've ever seen this piece in red, but you know you have it in black, so why are we doing this? So we're gonna be using 3 of these in the knees. That is crazy. That is going to be insanely sturdy. And Ninjago's out here flexing on Bionicle, Exoforce, and like literally every other theme that's ever come before it with these techniques. That is crazy. Now you have an idea of how big this is gonna be. These legs are definitely the biggest legs that I've ever built in Lego before. And it's quite nice because when you find this set for 73 bucks, it's really not breaking your wallet. And I do think it's something that you could ask for Christmas or for whatever holiday seasons you celebrate, along with a birthday. Like it's not too out there. It's not demanding too much, which I really appreciate. Moment of truth. We're not even done. Okay, bag 7 is the final upper part of the legs. Bag number 7. In my first review on this channel, when I built the Mos Eisley Cantina, you could see me struggle to find a specific piece. And after a while, I realized that they had put the wrong piece in. And I had to wait for 12 days for the replacement piece. And it wasn't a bad experience, but it created this kind of instinct that as soon as I can't find a piece, I think it's missing, like properly missing. It's just not in the set. And that is my initial reaction every single time when I can't find a piece. Luckily this time nothing is missing, but it's always kind of there in my mind. Like if I can't find it immediately, it might actually be missing. The color scheme of this set really does remind me of the Exo Toa, except for the white parts. But it really is cool to see something kind of similar because that was a mech as well for the Toa. And at the time, I just thought it was a really cool set, and especially the helmet piece. Like you could use the Exo Toa without the Toa inside of it, but it looked really cool. So this might not actually click into the legs then. This might be some sort of covering piece. If these are meant to be kneecaps, they are very chunky ones. So this technique was definitely not something I expected, but I totally see how this is gonna work now. This part is going to slide in here. So let's see if we can get it. Yeah, and then clicks in there. That was a lot of pressure. Okay, and then that clicks in. Definitely NPU. Wow. That is so cool. These sets should not be just marketed for kids. These are so great. And then, oh, wow. No way. This is huge. What? What? What is going on here? This is crazy. What? Bag number 8, instruction book 3. Before going any further, I am getting a little bit worried about adding more weight to this thing because it does feel quite flimsy at the top. The legs are super thick at the bottom, but up here they feel very flimsy. So I don't think this is something that's going to be able to hold like a running heroic pose. So we'll see. At the moment it looks quite disproportionate, a tiny torso and really long legs. So we'll see. This is starting to worry me a little bit how flimsy it is. Yeah, let's keep going. I'm getting a little concerned. Bag number 9. That's a really small bag. Yeah. Ugh. Bag number 10. I am starting to get a little bit worried about this set because it is getting a little bit flimsy, and I really don't think it's going to be able to hold its poses. It will look great, but the compromise will be that it looks great, but it might not pose very well or play well. And it reminds me of a problem that a Bionicle set had back in the day called Spinax and Maxilos. And it's a little bit different, but it would only have 2 connection points at the hips, so around here, and the legs were just too heavy so that it would end up doing the splits. And I think this is gonna be way too heavy as well to potentially balance on one leg, and that is because the other leg that will be pulled back or be in air is going to be too heavy, so it will just fall to the side, but we'll see. But I am starting to get a bit concerned that this is going to be a great display piece but not a play piece. Everything just feels very bulky, and I'm starting to feel like it might have some consequences of its appearance. That yes, it's going to look great and it's going to look cool, but this is really starting to feel like it's going to go beyond what it can actually achieve. Exoforce arms. We're only gonna do this one more time. We're now on to the final bag and the final instruction book. We're now onto the head, which is going to be very lightweight, I think, and that is definitely necessary for a set this big. Definitely a new piece for me, and I wonder if this is what they used for the Moon Knight minifig. I think that's where I might have seen it before, I'm not sure. New piece for me, definitely a cool one. Looks a bit like a very brutal butcher's knife, but the grip is terrible. Okay, and that attaches here in the back. Cool, cool, looks good. Now we're on to creating these wings on the back, and I'm not sure if they translate as wings to me, considering it's supposed to be a Titan Dragon Mech. I think potentially it would have looked cooler with proper wings. I've been concerned about this set for a number of reasons, and the other one being that these pieces are going to be the ones that attach to the swords that are the wings, so to say. And that is a pretty fragile connection. Maybe they've updated the pieces since I was a kid, but I have my concerns with this set. It looks cool, but I'm still not 100% sure how this is gonna go. These blades are a lot sturdier than the Ornithopter blade, which I really, this set, it gives me concerns. Let's just leave it at that. This is becoming huge. Is it fragile? No, not super. One concern off the grid at this point. And now we just have the sword left, and the build experience has been good. I'm just a bit more worried about the actual outcome of this set because I am very worried about how fragile this thing is going to be, along with the fact that I don't think we're going to be able to pose it that well. And then we got this massive, massive blade. I mean, come on. This is a bit too flimsy to be considered a sword piece. If this was hard plastic, I think it would have looked a lot better. It's a cool piece, but like, for the Ornithopter, it works. For this, I don't know if I love it. If it was harder, I would have liked it, but it feels a bit flimsy. And voila. Before we take a look at the massive mech, let's take a look at the singular minifig. This cool minifig comes with a really nice printed torso and leg piece, carrying 2 orange translucent katanas that match his color palette very well. However, the shoulder patterns look a little bit like traditional croissants. Under the hood, we get dual face prints. Just like the Source Dragon Emotion, I'm going to be using the same technique to assess the set. The set only comes with a singular minifig, which I think is a bit of a setback considering that even the Climber mech came with 4 minifigs, and all the previous Titan mechs came with from 4 to 6 minifigs. So I do think in terms of play value, we are missing a little bit with this set. One of my first major concerns when I saw this set was the weight distribution along with the proportions, and finally how heavy and bulky this set really is. With all these things taken into account, this set becomes very fragile and not very posable, although it does have knee articulation and elbow articulation along with even waist articulation. It can't do that much because as soon as you start shifting the weight around, it just falls over immediately and pieces will start to break off and fall off once the set falls over. When you try to put the set down, it just starts to turn in very awkward ways, and you can tell that the weight distribution here is not good. And I think it really is because these legs are like 3 times the size of the cockpit. Just because a set is big and expensive doesn't mean that it's going to be great. And unfortunately, this is a little bit of a reminder of why I didn't get big sets as a kid. I really think this set suffers from bloat. I feel like this set is trying to be a playset and a display piece at the same time, and it achieves neither because when you play with it, pieces are falling apart, it can't stand up on its own very well, you can't pose it, so I'm not really sure what this set is trying to do. The scale of the mech is imposing, but it becomes very disproportionate as soon as you start to compare to other sets. The leg on its own is bigger than the throne of the Source Dragon Emotion, which just kind of diminishes the epicness of certain sets. This leg really shouldn't be bigger than a throne. Personally, one of the things I was excited to do was match this set up with the Source Dragon Emotion, but it just ends up looking kind of like a lapdog in comparison to the Titan mech. Which leaves me wondering, what is the point of these massive battle mechs when their only opponent so far in terms of mechs from 2024 was the Wolf Mask Warrior mech, which was tiny, and in comparison to the Imperium Hunter Hound, it is also massive, which is cool at times, but it really shouldn't be making the Source Dragon Emotion look like a dog. Considering that this set almost falls over if you speak too loudly, I have to give this set a 3 out of 5. It's missing minifigs, it's missing context. I think it's way too big. Doesn't do a good job at being a toy. It doesn't do a great job at being a display piece either, considering that it really has limited posing. In terms of building techniques and build process, it is a pretty fun set to put together. However, you will quickly learn that the set is very unstable and the proportions and weight distributions just create a very fragile set. The legs are about 3 times the size of the cockpit, and although the sword is imposing, it is ridiculously large even in comparison to this mech and especially next to other mechs. There's a cool technique used in the knees where the panels slide up and down when bending the knee, which is cool, but for $100, I don't want compromises in a set. I really don't understand how this set passed LEGO's quality control, where part of their mission statement is only the best is good enough. This isn't good enough. With 3 more months of tweaking the leg design, I really think that it wouldn't have been cursed by its impressive stature. I'm a bit sad to say, but this set is a bit of a disappointment to me. It looks cool, but as soon as you try to pose it, it feels awkward and clunky and things start to fall apart. That's a 3 out of 5 from me. Do I think that the design team achieved what they set out to do in terms of creating a massive Titan mech? Yes. But do I think of it as a Dragon Titan mech? No. Does it function well as a toy? Not really, because it feels like a hybrid between a display set and a play set, and it doesn't really do well in either of those categories because it is really hard to pose this thing without it falling over. Visually, I think the design team did achieve what they set out to do. It is an awesome set. However, the functionality of this set is so flawed that it lowers the play value, which I think is the main objective if you're marketing this set towards kids. 3 out of 5 again. Before building this set, I looked up the previous Titan mechs. All of them came with 4 to 6 minifigs. This is the only one that only comes with 1 minifig, which strikes me as a little bit odd, considering that this is the most expensive Titan mech that they made at $99. Personally, this is not a big issue to me, but it strikes me as a little bit weird. $99 seems to be a fair price for this set because it is massive. However, when you pay $99 for a toy, it should function as one. And I really don't think that this set comes anywhere near unlocking its full potential, which in the end, I don't think justifies its own price. The Source Dragon Emotion has no compromises. This one shouldn't either. If I had to recommend you one of the two, I would definitely say get the Source Dragon Emotion if you can find it on sale. However, for $73, I do think it is a pretty cool set, and I guess I can give it a 4 out of 5, but this set urgently needs a stability redesign. Overall, this set gets a 13 out of 20, which is a little bit disappointing to me. But because of the stability issues, the awkward proportions, and the pieces falling off when you try to play or pose this set, it can't justify its $99 price point. And even at $73, I'm left with disappointment and somewhat a little bit of regret. Would I recommend you get this set? Well, visually it is cool, but as a toy, I wouldn't recommend this. So that's a no. Personally, I would recommend you get the smaller mechs. This is just too big, it can't handle its own weight. The Climber mech is a perfect example of kind of living up to its expectations. It lacks elbow and knee articulation, but generally it doesn't make as many compromises as this set does. Whenever we see these big sets on the shelves, there's an immediate wow factor because they are big, they are impressive, and they are expensive. But that does not mean that they are great. This set really had the potential to be a testament of LEGO's visual and technical side, but in the end, to me, it only scratched the surface. I don't know if my opinions on this set are controversial, but let me know if you have this set and what you thought about it, because I don't know how to feel about this. Let me know if any of you have any other sets that were so big that they couldn't handle their own weight or live up to their expectations. Once again, a massive thank you to everyone who has liked, commented, subscribed, and shared the videos around. A massive thank you. 1,000 subscribers is pretty crazy. And I have a passion project coming up that I am very excited to announce soon. But with that said, I now need to go and walk my dog.